This will be the last one that I pull. Right. So, Stephen, I see you. You have number 2.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's Stephen Marshall. Sorry.
Stephen Marshall, I'm sorry.
I'm going in alphabetical order.
Okay.
Stephen Marshall is number 2 for speaking order for opening statements. Actually, if I were smart, I would have done Tom Hamilton first.
Okay.
Like I said, it's Monday and it's our 9th forum, so I'm still going to keep.
Random. It's all random.
It is
Margie,
all random.
I think that they don't care.
I know. All right, so Tom, I'm picking you next.
Okay.
Here we go. You are number 5.
Got it.
I do see someone with their hand raised under Julie. I'm going to allow them to talk just to see if I can clarify if possibly that's Linda. So just one. Actually, no, that was, I don't know how.
Oh, there it is. Linda Mason raised her hand.
Okay, 1 second. Somebody added a. One moment, please.
And then Rico, if you could come off mute and confirm, is it Medina or Medina?
Well, let's go with Medina tonight.
Medina. I think I was there a couple years ago, and I think I said it wrong all night.
That's okay. I've completely forgotten.
Okay. Rico, you are number 3.
Thank you.
Michael Salazar.
Yes, ma'am.
You are number 4.
Thank you.
I better write that down. Jeremy Sarnecky. I assume I'm saying that correctly. Let me know if I'm not. Jeremy, you are number 6. You're on mute.
And I'm here now. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. And Stephen Seymour, you are number 1. And Linda Mason, welcome. I'm drawing lots out of my mug. You are number 7.
Great, thank you.
For speaking order. And then remember, opening statements are 3 minutes, and the order we just drew is your order. And then closing statements, it's reversed.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Otherwise, we'll go through this in the actual forum, but Kathy's got some signs to hold up. She's going to be the timer. You won't see a countdown, but you will see for the opening and closing statements, you'll see a 30-second warning. And then during the question round, you will see a 10-second warning. And then you will see a stop sign if you're still going. And you can finish your sentence or thought, but please don't go on for a paragraph, or I will mute you. That rarely happens. Otherwise, Melissa, I think we are ready when you are.
We're ready to go.
Okay, we're ready. You tell me when.
You can start whenever you would like.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. My name is Margie Gator, the League of Women Voters of North and Central San Mateo County. I will be your moderator for this San Bruno City Council and Mayor Candidate Forum. I want to thank the City of San Bruno for sponsoring the forum tonight. First, a little announcement. I just want to say that virtual candidate forums have a few unique features, but we think we've designed a good process for using the conferencing apps that will give everyone a good experience and follow the League's long-standing and well-received process. There is a host timekeeper tonight, that's Kathy Wheeler, and a moderator, that's me. The host is responsible for managing the virtual meeting, and she will also be our timekeeper. The audiences come in through a different channel, so they are both not on video and not on audio or in chat. So this is so the candidates can speak without interruption. We urge everyone to submit questions, and you can do that by sending an email to lwvncsmc, the Sanford League of Women Voters, North Central San Mateo County. Thank you, Kathy. .questions@gmail.com. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization of both men and women whose purpose is to promote active and informed participation in government. We appreciate the interest and efforts of groups such as the City of San Bruno in presenting events that increase voters' knowledge about the candidates and issues. The purpose of a candidate forum is to provide an opportunity for all the candidates to be heard at one time and questioned by you, the audience. We hope that bringing the candidates and voters together face to face, voters will be better informed and will make wise decisions when they vote. We appreciate your interest in coming out to learn more about the candidates. Tonight, you will hear from the candidates for the San Bruno City Council and for the San Bruno Mayor. We are conducting the forum of both races together since the mayor also sits on the City Council. There are 5 candidates for 2 seats on the City Council. The term of office is 4 years. There are 2 candidates for the 1 mayoral position, and the term of office is 2 years. The candidates in alphabetical order for City Council are Tom Hamilton, Stephen Marshall, Michael Salazar, Jeremy Sarnecky, and Stephen Seymour. The candidates for mayor are Linda Mason and Rico Medina. The rules for the forum are as follows. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. Then we'll have the question period, and each candidate will have 1 minute to answer. All candidates will have an equal time to speak to the question. And then each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. As I noted before, Kathy is our timekeeper, and she will be giving the candidates high signs 30 seconds for both the opening and closing statements, and 10 seconds for the question period, and a stop sign if they're still going, and I'll let them finish their thought. Again, if you have questions, send them on over. Then all the questions come to me, the moderator. I got lots of great questions before the forum, but please, if you think of a question, go ahead and send it, and Kathy will slide it over to me via Slack. I've sorted the questions by subject. I will cover a variety of topics. We rarely have time to ask all the questions, so I may rephrase or combine some questions at time. So we're ready for opening statements. The candidates have drawn lots to determine the order in which they will speak. Each candidate has 3 minutes for an opening statement, and our first one is Stephen Seymour. And you're on mute. Come off mute. There you go.
Thank you. All right, good evening. Thank you to our moderators and residents who tuned in to this candidate Q&A. My name is Stephen Seymour. I'm an 18-year resident of San Bruno. I have 2 daughters. Both are civic-minded, pursuing education where they will be helping others. My wife Sandra and I are longtime San Bruno volunteers. Many of you have seen us at the Senior Center, the American Legion, cleaning up our streets, or at Bel Air helping the PTA fundraisers. Most recently, we distributed 13,000 donated face shields to first responders throughout the Bay Area and the country, and staffed COVID testing sites. In 1984, while attending the New School for Social Research in New York City, I took a job at FedEx as a delivery driver. In 1988, I entered management. During the last 17 years, I was the managing director of operations for the Bay Area and the state of Hawaii. I was responsible for an organization 2,000 strong. I took great pride in my team and their ability to manage through holiday surges and economic downturns such as the 2008 recession. We always met our budget objectives while maintaining and improving our customer service. I retired from FedEx in 2016 to spend time with my family and get involved with my community. I spent 2 terms on the board of the United Way of the Bay, am currently a San Mateo County Arts Commissioner and a member of the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee and the Citizens Measure X Oversight Committee. My life and work experience have prepared me for the challenges we face today. San Bruno has struggled to meet our budget plan in the past years. Earlier this year, our deficit was predicted to be $4.2 million. Further complicated by COVID, it grew to more than $8 million. During the last year, San Bruno finally started collecting development impact fees, started a conversation about collecting taxes for short-term rentals, and has put 2 measures on the ballot that could improve our revenue. Residents have been asking for these revenue-generating actions for years. You might ask why it has taken so long. Why didn't City Council already have impact fees? Why haven't we taxed short-term rentals yet? Why is our transient occupancy tax or hotel tax 2 percentage points below our neighboring cities? Why are our streets unkept? Why do we have so many commercial vacancies on San Mateo Avenue? We can better and must if we are to create a more, we can do better and must if we are to create a more vibrant and collaborative community. This will take vision, time, and hard work. I have watched our community become more informed and more willing to roll up their sleeves and get involved. It's time we elect new candidates to move our city with a heart to a better future. I spent 32 years in the private sector and I'm comfortable with the speed of government. I know how to motivate, collaborate, and work with other agencies to find solutions, build plans, and implement them. Because I am retired, I have the time it will take to move San Bruno forward. My campaign is self-funded. If you elect me this November, I will work hard for you and be accountable only to you. Please consider my candidacy for City Council when you vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next opening statement will be Stephen Marshall.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. As many of you may know, I ran for City Council last year and I lost. While it was a big disappointment, it has also taught me a great deal. Voters want to know how a candidate will vote on important issues in the city, but they also want to know who you are, where you came from, and how you got here. My story is not a fairy tale, but it is a journey that I am proud of and one that I'm willing to share with my community. Many longtime residents may know that my father, Bob Marshall, was mayor of our great city for many years. My father taught me the importance of public service and how it is our duty to leave our community better off for our children. What few people know is that when I was in my early 20s, I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. I suffered through moments of deep despair. Addiction and poor decisions led me to times of homelessness. It was at this time of chaos and volatility in my life that I first became a father. When I saw my daughter for the first time, the reality of the situation struck me. I was a father of another human being, and the life that I was living was far from the life of a father. In fact, it was far from the life of a functioning person at all. It was then that I had that moment of clarity and realized that I had to grow up and be the father that this little girl deserved. 18 years ago, I made the decision to eliminate drugs and alcohol from my life and to be the father that my little girl deserved. I'm grateful every day for my 3 beautiful daughters and for the life they have given me. My determination to serve on the City Council is only driven stronger by the gratitude that I have for my daughters, the chances I have been given, and the many blessings I have received in my life. Now, as I once again enter the race for City Council, I want to speak directly to those who recognize a growing feeling of community divisiveness that threatens our ability to thrive. I hear loud and clear how I can better serve you and this city. The pressure and uncertainty of COVID-19, along with the unknown impact of climate and social changes, puts us all on the brink of upheaval. I believe more strongly than ever that my personal and professional experiences make me well suited to face these times and to collaborate with the community as I pay it forward by leading San Bruno forward. I would be honored if you would all join me. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next opening statement is Rico Medina.
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Voters, and thank you to the residents of San Bruno who are here this evening. I'm Rico Medina, and I'm a lifelong San Bruno resident, 3rd generation. Very proud of that. You always talk about leaving the community, but I ended up staying. I also was privileged enough to be a former San Bruno employee for the Parks and Recreation Department, shop steward. So it gave me a unique perspective of having to be on both sides of the table, then as a council member and now as mayor. What also is something else I also serve on is the vice chair of the Transportation Authority for the county, as well as vice chair for the Emergency Services Council for the county as well. That represents San Bruno, but at a county level that's been elected by all of the mayors from the 20 jurisdictions. You know, these are some really challenging, hard times with COVID and everything else that's going on, from fires to air quality, recession. It has been a challenge, but this city has tried to bring in, whether it's COVID testing, whether it's also food distribution at Skyline College. So to try to make sure we have the resources here close to our community and to those that need it. You know, there are things that have obviously come slower because of staff and resources, and again with the COVID-19, but San Bruno has been working on and moving things forward, like the fire mitigation, the impact fees as was discussed, which was first started to be read in February of 2019. This short-term rentals, the residential parking permit program, community benefits. We also had the affordable housing fee, which was established in 2016 and was adjusted recently to bring that up. Looking internally as well, before we went out to Measure G to help this city address the street surfaces that are in need. We did audits of the sales tax, business license, TOT, the hotel tax, and these were done to make sure that everything was in order before we go out asking others. But it was the need of the Measure G, which has been, quite honestly, a blessing to have this time to ensure that we don't have bigger cuts to our services. We have had to hold on freezes. So we were at 265, we're at about 237 in full-time employees now. But the important thing is our critical essential services have not been touched and are maintained completely. I think as mayor, what's most important is trying to bring a unity and trying to bring a civility. And at times, if that can't be done, it's time for the mayor to step in and trying to bring a compromise amongst 5 people. We don't all have to vote the same, but we need to work together to move the city forward. We need to leave it better than we found it today and make a difference. And I have done that. I wish to be able to continue to do that for the city of San Bruno. I call home.
Thank you. And our next opening statement is Michael Salazar.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Michael Salazar, currently the Vice Mayor and member of the City Council. I want to start tonight by thanking the League of Women Voters for putting on this event every year. And I also want to thank our residents that are here to inform themselves on the issues and our qualifications. I think this is probably my 4th forum, and I always look forward to these events. We do our best to try to connect with our residents, especially during the election time, but it is difficult to reach everyone. And this year, with COVID-19 and smoke from the fires, it's been even harder. We've tried Zoom meetings, phone calls, emails, but even with all of those tools, it's really no substitute for that personal contact with the residents that really builds bonds and builds trust with the people that they elect. And so this forum does provide another avenue. It's another opportunity for all of you to ask your questions and maybe even start a deeper conversation. The 1-minute answers you're going to hear tonight can't give you a full understanding of all of the complex issues that we face. I invite everyone with interest to follow up with a call, an email, or even a text message if they have more questions. My contact information is posted on my website, salazarforcouncil.com, or you can just Google Salazar City Council and you'll find it. And as many of you know, or maybe some of you know, the City Council in San Bruno is not a full-time paid position. In fact, many of us over the years have balanced the full-time job, our family life, volunteer commitments, and this very important duty to our community. And the reason I do it is simple. I enjoy being able to make this city a better place. This role is not about pushing pet projects or imposing my will on the community. This is a service role. The City Council's function is to serve the residents. It is the Council's role to create policies and provide oversight that keeps our city moving forward. There are 40,000 voices that must be considered, and I take each and every one of them to heart. People often ask what it takes to be an effective council member. I don't think it's the number of years that you've lived here or your professional background that really matter. I believe that what really matters is the depth of the roots that we've planted here, and my roots run pretty deep. I take a great deal of pride in the fact that my friends in San Bruno come from all corners of the city, from all income groups, all ethnic groups, all age groups, all faiths, all political affiliations, and span a full spectrum of opinions. Diversity, especially diversity of thought, is what makes communities thrive. Bringing these diverse ideas together is what will move San Bruno forward. Again, this is not about my vision for the city. This is about our collective vision for the city. So let's make it happen together. Thank you again for your interest, and I look forward to hearing your questions.
Thank you. And our next opening statement is Tom Hamilton.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tom Hamilton.
Those of you not already familiar with me, I was born and raised here in San Bruno, and I'm a product of San Bruno's public schools. After college, I entered the IT industry and have worked for 25 years in the same organization. As IT director, I lead a team of 28 talented analysts as we design business processes in a large and complex healthcare organization. After I married my amazing wife, Karen, we returned to San Bruno and are raising our son, Matthew, and our daughter, Lily, here in the city that we love. I spent the last 14 years volunteering in various capacities to improve San Bruno. First as a member and chair on the Traffic Safety and Parking Committee, and currently as Planning Commissioner. I volunteer in the community through the Second Harvest Food Bank, the American Legion, and on many of the community feedback workshops held by the city, like those for the downtown streetscape and parking plans. When San Bruno calls, I am always there to pitch in and to help. I believe strongly that San Bruno is at a crossroads. We have so much unrealized potential that becomes so evident when we look at our neighbors and see them inviting bustling commerce, adding needed housing, revitalizing their downtowns, and so forth. But something always seems to be holding us back, and it's usually money. San Bruno ranks second to last in revenue per capita in the county, and we need to address that. It's no secret that development will continue coming to San Bruno, and we need to ensure that developers pay their fair share in impact fees to San Bruno, as is common practice everywhere, but that we approve respectful development that adds desperately needed housing while mitigating the impact on our existing neighborhoods as much as possible. But we also can't rely solely on development to save us. As you listen to the candidates tonight, I ask you to look for which of us are bringing specific, actionable ideas for improving San Bruno instead of just rhetoric and buzzwords. I'm the only candidate who's laid out all of my positions on my website way back at the beginning of my campaign, with specific and practical ideas for how I think we can move forward. In my opinion, this election should be decided on each candidate's specific positions on the issues we're facing in San Bruno and how these positions align with your values. I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this important forum tonight, and I thank all the residents watching for tuning in to learn about the candidates so that you can make an informed decision. I can't wait to hear and respond to your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next opening statement is Jeremy Sarnecky.
Thank you very much for hosting this forum, League of Women Voters. So who I am a longtime resident of San Bruno. I am the product of its public schools from elementary to community college, and I am a registered Democrat. But most importantly, I am a concerned citizen who fears that the city of San Bruno is doing its future generations a great disservice. For the short-sighted actions of both the school board and city council have led to the closure of schools and the sale of invaluable public lots. Because the city does not have the fiscal footing to purchase these properties, they cannot option them for lease. And when they are inevitably sold, they are zoned for single-family residential buildings which do not remotely meet the present housing crisis in scale or affordability. Lastly, I do not need to convince anyone that San Bruno is experiencing other major crises of global scale, including the COVID-19 pandemic and climate change, which in my opinion will not be solved by the lawyers and real estate agents of the world, but by scientists who can communicate clearly to their fellow community members what actions can be best taken to prevent future harm. For all these reasons and more, I am running for the office of San Bruno City Council member.
Thank you. And our final opening statement is Linda Mason.
Hi, San Bruno. Thank you for your time tonight and commitment to San Bruno. This year's election is critical to the future of San Bruno, and I look forward to hearing from all of our candidates tonight. What a difference a year makes. A year ago, I was the chair of the Planning Commission in the midst of an exciting election in San Bruno in which I was a candidate. The future looked so daunting but promising, and the excitement around change was palpable everywhere you went. Today, we sit in a new world that reflects our resiliency. We're on a Zoom meeting in the midst of an international pandemic. Our schools are remote. Our seniors are isolated with free food programs put on by the Senior Center. Our park and rec programs are virtual. And just like that, the world goes on. We have so much to be thankful for here in San Bruno. We are not only the city with a heart, but we are in the heart of the Bay Area. An hour from Marin County, an hour from the East Bay, an hour from San Jose, we are the original home to the San Francisco International Airport and have 280, 380, and 101 just a short turn away. We have Samtrans, Caltrains, and BART. We were chosen by YouTube to be their international headquarters the new home to Amazon, who just purchased Sky Park, and the place Walmart.com is going to call their home. We have development coming all around us. The South Line project in South San Francisco on the San Bruno border is expecting to bring thousands of new jobs to South San Francisco and thousands of cars, traffic, to San Bruno. Mills Park will be home to 427 new units. The fate of the Crestmore Fields will be decided. With the closing of Sears, we're likely to see some development in and around San Fran. And let's not forget the one project that is truly the city's project, our new and long-awaited aquatic center. This will take place in the current park Veteran Center, and it's going to have an indoor and outdoor pool, an indoor track, and is estimated to be a 2-year project. This is a time in our history where we need leadership, we need accountability, and resident representation. It is a time to be direct, to protect the interest of San Bruno, and minimize the impacts to residents. If you have seen me this past year, I ask questions. I vote no if the answer is not sufficient, and I always look out for your dollars. My experience as an attorney in a government agency has proved helpful in reviewing contracts when they come to our city council meetings. I look forward to San Bruno's future and forming its vision with all of you together as we all move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for opening statements. Now it's time to move to the question period, and it's time for the candidates to answer your questions. If you haven't, please submit it by email to lwvncsmc.questions@gmail.com. Thanks, Kathy. I will vary the order in which the candidates are called on to speak all throughout, so that'll be different, entertaining. So we'll get started with the first question. I have several questions on budget, so I'm going to ask a couple to start. One is a general question, and one will be more specific. The first one is $9 million in debt and counting. How did we get here, particularly pre-COVID, and how do we get out? So we have a very large debt. How did we get here? Particularly, how did we start here pre-COVID, and how do we get out? And first on this is Linda Mason.
So I would say, how did we get here? I was not on the council at the time that we got into a deficit, but I think the answer in a nutshell is that everything went up with inflation, and the city of San Bruno stayed stagnant and failed to approach and take advantage of revenue generation opportunities. Last year, after announcing my candidacy in March of 2019, I have said over and over, elections make a difference. Competition makes a difference. It's the beautiful part of our democracy. In May of 2019, the City Council passed development impact. That means that for years, the developments around us, such as the Aperture building that's on El Camino Real and San Mateo Avenue, the apartments across the street from San Fran, the city did not generate the larger development impact fees that have been gotten from cities all around us in 20 peninsula cities that we've gotten. We are now also we're now going to put on the ballot the transient occupancy tax, the cannabis tax. We got a grant writer approved, Measure K funds. I will continue later. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on this question is Michael Salazar.
So the $9 million situation really is, it's largely driven by COVID-19 and the impact that it's had on every city and every state of our country and across the planet. So where we started with this, it was initially a $4 million shortfall in revenue that we encountered, and it was due primarily to 4 factors. One of them was the fact that the state changed how they were doing there's a fee that we get from the state that's related to the car registration that they changed the process on, and so that resulted in $1 million shortfall that we were anticipating. There was also roughly $2 million in fees that we were expecting from developments that were delayed. Those will be coming in later, but they weren't available at that time. And then there was a shortage due to sales tax from Sears and from Sky Park. So those shortfalls happened at the beginning of 2020 and were immediately addressed.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. So how we got here, I'm sure, is a long story. This didn't happen overnight, but for whatever reason, San Bruno has seemed to be complacent to growth and change. And I get it, you know, change can be scary, but we're at a point where we can't be scared anymore. I don't like cuts to fix the budget. I'm sure some are imminent. I'm going to do my small part. If elected, I'm foregoing any council salary or benefits. It's not a huge amount, but it's about $30,000 per year that could maybe save a part-time job of a city employee. If I'm going to be asking for them to cut their pay, the least I could do is the same. As a city, we must embrace development. I mean, it's clear that's going to be the #1 long-term plan. It's going to generate impact fees as well as increase our property tax fees. And we can no longer rely on short-term Band-Aid fixes, and definitely cannot punish our residents and our homeowners with any increased taxes.
Thank you. And next on this question is Jeremy Sarnecky.
Well, I think I can only follow up what other people have said in response to your question. Definitely, we have been victims of the COVID-19 pandemic in terms of our tax revenue from Sears and Sky Park. And I would also like to mention that this is a short-term problem that we're experiencing, and one that can be quickly remedied by the future development that is slated to take place on the Bay Hill specific plan. Based on what plan we choose to go forward with, we could be looking at upwards of $30 million in the development fees. And while that does seem like a great deal of money and funds that I would like to see used to purchase these invaluable public land, so that they could be optioned to lease or we sell them with great community input.
Thank you. Thank you. And next is Tom Hamilton.
So we got here, the way we got here is that over many, many years, we weren't collecting impact fees for the large developments that took place, as was mentioned previously. That was a missed opportunity, and there were a whole bunch of different missed opportunities that helped get us to where we are. How we're going to get out of it, as has been stated, is the #1 way we're going to get out of it is development, but it can't be the only way. We can't put all of our eggs in that basket. If there's a recession and things are slowed down, then we're going to be really in a stuck position. We have to look for other sources of revenue. We have to pursue grants. We have to look for federal and state funding, other alternate sources of funding, and we really just need to open our imaginations to different ways of bringing in revenue here into San Bruno. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Rico Medina.
Sorry. Yes, it was already alluded to that there were 4 elements to the 4.2 million, which was the Sky Park, the Sears, the DMV transfer through fees, as well as development permits. So through that came the $4.2 million, which was sold to the entire city council on February 25th of this year, which the council took a unanimous decision in which to bridge that gap and ensure that we were not running a deficit but a balanced budget as required. As far as the impact fees, those took effect in May, but the first reading for those by the city council was on February 12th, and the second reading was on February 26th, and that's when they were approved. They took effect on May 1st. Those are some things that are long lasting, in addition to community benefits and also the TOT that we're going to be placing out that will assist us. The last time that was done is in 2009. We raised it from 10 to 12, and now it will go from 12 to 14 with the approval of the community.
Thank you. And finally, Stephen Seymour. Come off mute, Stephen. Come on. I can do it.
Got it.
There you go.
Okay. I agree with what Jeremy said. This is a short-term issue. I think how we got here, although I'm not on the council, I just think we need greater accountability and more oversight. And I do believe that the biggest portion of getting us out of this is going to be development. I mean, there are a lot of development projects in the pipelines right now. We got Bay Hill or YouTube. There's talk around Tanforan, and then Sky Park. Amazon just moved in. But ultimately, we're going to need more oversight. And I'm not sure how we got to the 4 million. I know that a lot of people talked about how COVID brought us to 9, and I agree that we can't control that. But I think we should have been looking a little further down the road, and we should have been able to keep from having a $4 million deficit at the beginning of the year.
Thank you. Well, I'll let you get into a few more specifics with the next question. What are some budget cuts and revenue strategies that you would recommend to start to reduce this huge deficit and to start a rainy day fund later on? What are some specific budget cuts or specific revenue strategies that you would recommend to start to reduce the huge deficit and to start a rainy day fund later on? And first on this is Rico Medina.
Yeah, as far as specifics, as I said, we usually have a complement of 265 full-time employees. We're currently around 237. That is now funded positions. Doesn't mean that they're gone for good. It means that they're not funded right now. That was done in order to balance the budget as well as put off some of the capital improvement projects. That is what you do to balance a budget which is required to operate the city. What we have done too is in 2013, we had reserve policies that were put in place, which had maximum capacities for each item, so that therefore when we have emergencies, i.e. up at San Bruno Avenue, there was something there that we had immediately and available to us. Also us going for revenue with Measure G and with the TOT, those are going to be long-term. And on the impact fees as well, keep in mind, we haven't had a lot of building that was being done prior to this, but that will also help us with one-time fees to help offset costs for the city.
Thank you. And next on this question is Stephan Marshall.
Hi, thank you. So, like I said before, I hope we don't have to decrease funding or decrease salaries. I would hope that we could increase productivity. It's concerning because I was so excited to run for city council last year because we had all of this new management in place in each department. And now I'm hearing that in the last year, since the last election and since this election is underway, we've lost Park and Rec finance director, building and planning director. We've lost a fire chief, a police chief, and it's concerning to me, why this constant turnover is not going to help balance our budget if we keep having people coming in and out and learning the job. So how can we create an environment for these employees and for this management staff? And as a city council, I think we can have effect on that. I think that if there's less divisiveness on the council and we start at the top and create conformity at the staff level,
thank you,
it will improve.
Thank you. And next is Jeremy Sarnecky.
I'm happy this question was asked because I didn't have time to answer it as much as I could in the last one. What I would like to say is that, one, I will support as hard as I can, as much as I can, any action to keep as many full-time employees that the city has as possible. I will not support any cut in terms of payroll. And I also do not support taxes generated by increasing the hotel tax. I feel like they've already paid so much so far. I don't know why we've targeted them, quite frankly. But what I do think is that when we do generate upwards of $30 million in projected development impact fees, that we do not make unwise capital expenses in the coming years, including a library or a city hall expansion.
Thank you. And next is Tom Hamilton.
So regarding cuts, from my understanding, there's really not much left to cut, and so we do need to go after new sources of revenue. One source could be, if we explore becoming a charter city, we would be able to enact a transfer fee on large commercial real estate sales. If San Mateo is a charter city, if we had the same setup that San Mateo has, the Sky Park sale would have generated over $600,000 for San Bruno, whereas today we got nothing. What we can't do in order to address the budget problems is to go back to the residents again. The residents have done enough. Measure G last year, which I did support, should represent the last ask of the residents to help address the budget crisis. After years and years of water and sewer increases and all of that, we cannot go back to the residents again to help solve this problem.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Seymour.
Okay. I don't know what budget cuts could be made. I know that we've already put off hiring 26 positions. I believe that there's probably room for efficiency improvements, and that is my background. That's where I come from. I agree also that in looking at charter cities, that transfer fee, especially for large commercial properties, might be something we should think about. I would not approve a transfer fee on residential property. And then I also agree that we can't go back and ask the residents to get us out of this. I think we need to listen to staff, and we need to listen to our residents more deeper. I'd like to create a revenue financial sustainability committee of successful business people and others to help provide direction. We must not allow future opportunities to escape us. I don't think putting hiring holds and cutting services is where we need to be.
Thank you. And next is Linda Mason.
So I just would say that even though we did balance the budget this year, it's not a balanced budget I'm proud of. I do not want to balance the budget on the backs of more labor and not filling positions. We simply can't afford to keep doing that. As far as revenue generation, we did direct staff to pass a community benefits package of $35 per square foot, which is going to look like about $50 to $60 million. We mentioned the two taxes that are on the ballot. We did go after Measure K funds. There's $150,000 that are now being used for the Tom Lara fields. We're in the process of another $150,000 to hopefully finally fix the blighted Posey Park fountain at the Caltrain station. We did approve a grant writer to go after money so we can start fixing up our parks and not have to wait for more money coming in. We also approved the short-term rental regulation. And as far as money coming in, we talked about the commercial building tax, which had we had a commercial transfer tax, we would have brought in about $700,000. And we need to really start attracting businesses that are going to generate revenue. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Michael Salazar.
Can you repeat the question for me, please? Because I think some of these conversations got a little off track. So if you could just
Sure. Sure. What are some specific budget cuts or revenue strategies you would recommend to start to reduce the deficit and start a rainy day fund later on?
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
So first of all, just to clarify, there is no deficit. And as Linda just mentioned, we did balance the budget. And it wasn't a pretty budget, but we did balance it. And there is no deficit that needs to be filled. And we addressed it by keeping some positions open, and we delayed some projects. We do have reserves. We have reserves that are still being held for rainier days, and it's pouring right now, but we do have money left to account for other emergencies that may come up. So our budget is not in turmoil, and we have done very well at maintaining our staffing levels and our expenses so that we can address these issues when they come up. It is difficult with less staff, but we do need to remain focused on development. We have to be really focused on development and encouraging development and not turning down good projects, because that's how we're going to get out of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is about the Mills Park project. Did you oppose or support the Mills Park project? And do you think San Bruno needs to fix its reputation with developers since the project happened? Do you oppose or support the Mills Park project? And do you think San Bruno's reputation with developers now needs fixing? And first on this is Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. So I definitely was in favor of the Mills Park development. It was a beautiful project from the beginning. I get that it was going to impact neighbors, but again, we have to look at the big picture and what's going to address the city as a whole. What makes me nervous is that we have three candidates here who are saying that they want development and that they want increased development for both business and residential, yet they want to tax these developers or these sales coming in. So it makes me nervous that we're saying two different things. We want development, please come here. But if you want to come here, you have to pay the price. That's not going to fix our reputation with developers trying to get them into San Bruno, because they want to come here. We're completely blessed geographically, but we need to encourage them, not continue to discourage them. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on this is Linda Mason.
Yeah, so I would just say that Mills Park was an incredibly difficult decision for those of you whom I spoke with. I still feel that it is too high for the community, but as I stated the night of the approval, we were under pretty serious threat of litigation, and not just litigation, but a much larger project, which would have been 600 to 700 units. Which is one of the reasons I do agree that we need to look into a potential charter city where other cities that have had similar projects actually are able to maintain more local control around development. I do support development. I don't think we should rubber stamp every development that comes into San Bruno, and I don't think we should shame people who want thoughtful development. Mills Park is going to be built. We have a number of projects that are in the works downtown that I have supported that have had no opposition from the neighboring communities. All I'm saying is that we need to think about our residents. We need to think about those who live directly across the street before future development comes in. But we all know we need development to move the city. Thank you.
Thank you. And next on Mills Park is Michael Salazar.
So I do live right next to the project, and so I wasn't able to vote on it. And I'm hesitant to offer a lot of opinions on a project that's still in progress for the very same reasons. But I will say that there were a lot of opinions on it, and the size of it and the impact to the neighborhood. And I do believe that at the end of the day, that there are rules that are in place, and as a council, we have to abide by the rules that we've created. And if those rules were a product of an election and the people approved it, we really shouldn't be standing in the way or trying to interpret what our current zoning would allow or not allow. So with that, it will have an impact on our community. I get it. But every development that comes to San Bruno will have an impact on somebody's neighborhood. And I would be hard pressed to say, go do it in somebody else's neighborhood and not my own.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Seymour.
Yes, I am pleased that Mills Park passed. And I think this time around it passed because we took out the grocery store and we took away 70% of the traffic trips into the neighborhood. And I think that really set well with a lot of the people who live there. The first time around, there would have been too many cars going into the neighborhood. And the second time around, not only did we reduce 70% of the traffic, but we brought in another $5 million in impact fees. So I'm happy with Mills Park. I don't think we have a reputation problem with our developers. If we did, why would they have bought Sky Park? Why are we developing Bay Hill? Why is there conversations right now about Tanforan? So I don't believe that we have a problem. There's not a lot of land in the Bay Area, and where there is land, developers will come.
Thank you. And next is Rico Medina.
On Mills Park, it's public record, I voted for it. The change that has occurred is that there is no Whole Foods supermarket. That's the change. And that was estimated at $385,000 annually to come to the city, as well as obviously jobs for the city. What will happen is those units will now have to travel, to other locations in their vehicle in order to get their groceries, if that's the best way that they need to be accommodated. Do I think it hurt our reputation? I think it did. I think anytime you set rules and standards and somebody spends 3 years and $3 million and they check all the boxes and they come and they meet the requirements and then are told no, I think it could lead some to say, why don't we go somewhere else where we may not have that impediment? So for me, we have to think about all of San Bruno when we do development anywhere in this community. It affects all of us one way or the other, and that's an important factor going forward.
Thank you. And next is Jeremy Sarnecky.
So in regards to the Mills project, increasing height limits along the transit corridor was in fact the will of the people. The voters voted unanimously to have these height limits increased. But being a lifelong resident of the city, I was very shocked to find out that there was any plan to put a grocery store at that intersection. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, and I'm very pleased to see that it's now mixed commercial space.
Thank you. And finally, Tom Hamilton.
So I had to vote on Mills Park. I was on the planning commission and I voted yes. Although I did feel that it was too impactful on the surrounding neighborhood, and we sent a resolution to the city council along with it, saying to please reduce the scope. And then of course that iteration failed, and the subsequent iteration that did pass was less impactful on the surrounding neighborhood by removing the grocery store. The loss of Whole Foods from that project, I don't think is any kind of fatal blow to San Bruno. If Whole Foods wanted to open there, that means that they've identified San Bruno as an area for expansion, and I'd be willing to bet that we're going to be seeing a Whole Foods somewhere in San Bruno sometime in the future. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. Regarding having fees that for the development fees and scaring away developers, cities like San Mateo, who have done all the same types of fees, don't seem to be hurting for development, and we just need to emulate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is about downtown development. For years, there has been criticism for a lack of development, a lack of improvement in our downtown, San Mateo Avenue. If elected, what specifically needs to be done to bring actual change and improvements to downtown? For years, there has been criticism of a lack of improvement to our downtown, San Mateo Avenue. If elected, what specifically needs to be done to bring actual change and improvement to the downtown? And first is Jeremy Sarnecky.
So a couple of things. I do think that it's a strategy we should investigate whether or not we want to have downtown San Bruno incorporate some of the higher density limits now. But along with that, we need to focus on developing without displacement. There are a lot of businesses that match the middle class character of our city, and it would be a shame for them to go. Last thing I'll say is that that middle class character gives us a great variety of diversity in the restaurants available.
Thank you. And next is Tom Hamilton.
So we have a streetscape plan, we have a downtown parking plan. Both of those will take millions of dollars to implement. I think that we should use those plans as a menu and start making incremental improvements now, because waiting around for millions of dollars to show up and fix our downtown has been the plan at City Hall for 30 years, and it's time for a different plan. And something else that we can do in the short term is address our derelict buildings that exist up and down San Mateo Avenue. I have a very specific, actionable plan on doing exactly that. That's listed all on my website. In a very brief nutshell, we establish a zone just on the avenue. We have minimum upkeep standards, no peeling paint, no broken fixtures, et cetera, et cetera. We have code enforcement enforce those things, impose fines if necessary, and keep those fines on the avenue as needed. And then, as on the flip side, offer expedited permitting and waive permit fees or subsidize permit fees in order to encourage development.
Thank you. Thank you. And next is Stephen Seymour.
Okay. In 2009, we passed the general plan. In 2013, the TCP. And in the past 2 years, we have built a downtown streetscape plan and a parking plan. Since 2009, very little has been done to make the avenue more desirable. This hurts our merchants and our general fund. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit as a pathway to our long-range plan. Planting trees in the ground, steam cleaning our sidewalks, new garbage cans, upholding our existing building codes would create an environment that could encourage new business. This would bring more tax dollars and would begin the larger and more costly revitalization efforts. I dream of a downtown where we cherish the diversity and respect our history while providing a great active walking, dining, and shopping experience. And I agree with Sarnecky, we need to develop our downtown, but without displacement.
Thank you. And next is Michael Salazar.
So I agree that there are probably some small things that could be done downtown. With redevelopment, being that our downtown is right in the middle of our transit corridors plan, there will be big changes coming eventually, and those may be sooner rather than later. And inevitably, there will be some displacement. But I think in the meantime, we do owe it to the businesses that have stuck it out with us to allow them an opportunity to thrive as long as they can. There are, some ideas that have been out there for a while. We've tried them. Maybe it's time to try them again. We definitely have to do what we can to preserve these small businesses. We definitely need a partnership with the building owners and the business owners. We need to come together and really develop a plan that works. I would be hard pressed to unilaterally impose fees or fines or other taxes on the businesses, especially now that they're really struggling to keep going. And so, we really need to help them, and we need a partnership.
Thank you. And next is Linda Mason.
So I think we need to consider a merchants association. More than anything, we need people downtown. Go downtown, enjoy it, spend their money down there, and not be embarrassed of it, and really truly support the downtown as it is right now, because the change is going to take time. It's going to take money. I want to say that we should be partnering with some of our corporations, similar to South City. Genentech has on the town every year where they give $50 to each of the employees to go and spend money downtown. We should be looking at that. One of my first things on council was to ask how we can relieve the parking requirements of some of these small businesses that were required to make 17 parking spaces for a tiny little restaurant. That was done right away. That was approved by the council. It was unanimous. We need to continue to waive the permitting and streamline the permitting processes for our businesses. Lastly, I just want to mention that a couple of years ago, Berkeley and Stanford chose our downtown for their annual contest to determine what our downtown could look like. It's called the Golden Shovel Contest. It could be amazing. I recommend everyone look into it.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. So downtown is a complex issue that new garbage cans are not going to fix, unfortunately. And it's complex because all those buildings are individually owned. But what I know is, from speaking to some of these building owners, is they do want to make a change. But they want to see the city participate in this. And our infrastructure needs to be changed and improved, and that comes from parking. We have multiple parking lots owned by the city that can be developed into multi-story parking lots with little to no money. If we partner with a private developer to build these, lease the land even, and profit not only from the rents, but from the pay from the parking structures. We also need to invest in a full-time business development director that can go out and look for businesses. Why are we waiting for businesses? They can go out, find the business we want, attract them, roll out the red carpet, streamline permitting process, get different merchants together. I mean, we have a bunch of hotels in San Bruno that are ignored, and they should be listened to.
Thank you. And finally, Rico Medina.
Yeah, it was alluded to about the streetscape plan, but it does take money. Absolutely. And when we have the community benefits, I think the next council needs to start to prioritize what phases, as it was placed in different phases, can be accomplished. These are one-time resources that are brought in, community benefits, to help fix and make a long-lasting impression. Also with community benefits, we're talking about helping. Why don't we have a 50-50, 50% by the property owner, 50% by the city through the community benefits for the facades? We used to have a facade program in San Mateo Avenue when we had redevelopment, but the state took that away and that stopped that process. So there are things we can do, or the Centennial Park that we talk about opening it up and making it more of an area where it can have some activity and entertainment, so we can bring folks down there for certain activities, partner up with the chamber and the merchants, and try to have more things that will bring people there and stay there and then return there.
Thank you. That's everybody. Okay. Our next question is climate change. Every city in San Mateo County, except for San Bruno, has a detailed climate action plan that they are implementing, and it's available on their website. How would you ensure that San Bruno generates and implements a similar climate action plan? Every city in San Mateo County, except for San Bruno, has a detailed climate action plan that they are implementing, and it's available on their website. How would you ensure that San Bruno generates and implements a similar climate action plan? And first is Tom Hamilton.
Well, we would need to put staff on it to put together a plan and have us have us vote on it. I don't think this is something, unfortunately, we'll be able to do in this next year, just because of all the other concerns that we're going after. I do think that we need to encourage green building and green building codes through our building codes. We can do that in some ways by subsidizing permit fees for new development that incorporates solar, and in other ways to encourage new development to build green. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Seymour.
Okay. First, I'm shocked that I knew we didn't have one, but I didn't know we were the only city that didn't have one. I agree with Tom Hamilton that new development, we should ask new development to put solar. I'm not sure if that's exactly what he was referring to, but I think that should be something that we require of new development. I think that we should be looking at ways that we can green our city up more, more planting of trees. Right now, if you go to San Bruno or SB Responds, there's a tab where you can order a street tree, and you can have that street tree planted outside your house. We've done it. We could probably put another 15 on my block, and we've gotten a number of our neighbors to put street trees out. This block used to be covered in trees. As a council member, I would wholeheartedly support creating a plan so that we wouldn't be the only city in San Mateo County that doesn't have one.
Thank you. And next is Rico Medina.
Yeah, this is important, as was alluded to earlier, and is something that all county needs to be on board with as well. And this is something that we should, at the next budget cycle, our city manager, through the recommended budget, should bring forward. And if that means we have to outsource that because of staffing components, then we do it. Since so many agencies and jurisdictions have one, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Maybe it can be done in-house. So you take what's already there, and then you apply it to the city of San Bruno with obviously open dialogue and community input, because there are a lot of things, even with the Rec and Aquatic Center, trying to go into that realm to make it sustainable. However, we also have it as an emergency shelter, so we have to balance that too. But we've made strides, but as far as the climate change, that's just something that budgeted. A council during strategic initiatives would set the priority, set the setting, and have it done, and have a date to bring it back.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. Yeah, I like the idea of solar. I don't know if we need to pass something else on to the developers after we're having them pay an impact fee and a transfer fee, and now you want them to pay a solar fee, and you want them to build 4 stories and sell everything at a profit somehow, and create affordable housing. So, but with regards to solar, how about our public schools? I know that we're doing some renovations to a lot of the public schools. Perhaps we can put solar on the roofs of our schools, or find some. I think the most important is that we make people aware of this, because like Stephen Seymour said, I wasn't aware that we were the only city in this position either. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Jeremy Sarnecky.
Okay, obviously I'm very passionate about climate science. And I think what we need to do as a city is have a citizens volunteer commission on climate change, no questions about it. Second thing is, more than any of the other candidates, I think that I'm the only one that would like to implement a concrete framework for having San Bruno transition to a 100% renewable energy city in the next general plan, which will expire in 2025 and will last until 2040. Given Joe Biden and his plan for $2 trillion in clean energy investment, I think it's important that we have local leaders that know how that money can be best spent, and we shouldn't be focusing on the low-hanging fruit, including solar roofs and green reach codes. And lastly, I think it's a disgrace that we don't have anything in our city currently.
Thank you. And next is Michael Salazar.
So I believe that climate action plans are fairly new even to the other cities. And while we definitely all agree that it is important that we implement our own, there's probably several, maybe 100 other important items that are on our strategic list that we weren't able to get to on this last go around. So I would definitely support adding this to our list of strategic initiatives and see where it shakes out. One benefit of not being the first is, of course, that you get the benefit of what everybody else has already done and learned, and we can definitely borrow from our neighbors and find out what they're doing. I don't think the city's been completely inactive in this region, and I know that we have updated our building codes to be greener over the past few years. We have stayed current with those things, and we've also changed our city practices around how we operate and how we've made changes that have actually made an impact into our carbon footprint locally. So not completely inactive on that, and I look forward to having a plan of our own.
Thank you. And finally, Linda Mason.
Thank you. I love Jeremy's idea of a committee. I think I would definitely support that. I think it's a great start. I also think we need to look towards no gas homes like other cities are doing. We should also look at the car dealerships we have and potentially doing something that other cities haven't done, which is requiring a percentage of the cars being sold to be electric here in San Bruno. I am one of the candidates that have asked whether the Aquatic Center was going to be a green building and whether the U2 buildings were going to be green buildings. And I think that overall, we really need to start thinking about what that climate action plan would look like. How would it fit San Bruno? And we've apparently got 19 other cities to look at for reference. So thanks for the question.
Thank you. Okay. Our next question is about cannabis dispensaries. What is your stance on cannabis dispensaries being potentially allowed in San Bruno? Will you help move this forward and why? Or are you against it and why? What is your stance on cannabis dispensaries in San Bruno? Will you help move this forward and why? Or are you against it and why? And first on this is Michael Salazar.
Sorry, couldn't find my mute.
There you go.
So the cannabis question is a very complicated one, and I know it sounds like a simple yes or no answer, but it's really not. Cannabis is a very heavily regulated industry, and if we were to move forward with this, it would require a lot of planning and a lot of staff time to make it done. And given our current staffing situation, I don't know that it should stack up very high on our list of priorities. In the staff report we got on this a while back, it was uncertain how much revenue could be generated from this. So while there is some potential upside from a financial standpoint, I don't know that it would be the most important one on my priority list. And another concern also is that it is a bit of a divisive topic in our community. And given that we, in our current COVID situation, don't have an opportunity to bring the community together to discuss this, I would be concerned that we wouldn't do justice to that discussion and having it fully vetted by the community.
Thank you. And next is Rico Medina.
So we, as a city of San Bruno and the council, took action to ban all usage of cannabis, and that was because we had to do it before the state put in their initiatives so that we would have control on what San Bruno wanted to do and not be regulated under the state. We have brought up that discussion. We have decided that regulatory was not something to put on this ballot. All the council concurred to that. If it is something to go forward, I think at the time, for me as a city council member to say I'm going to, if reelected as mayor, going to vote for cannabis and just have it done with 3 votes, no, I'm not there. This does have to have community input and outreach. It's been made very clear to me by many people that I've walked and talked to that it is legal for recreational under Prop 64. But that doesn't mean that everybody's just happy just to say, let it be the answer to every economic issue that we have in this community. I think we need to have community input. I think we have to have more facts in order to make an appropriate decision.
Thank you. And next is Tom Hamilton.
I do support allowing cannabis dispensaries to operate in San Bruno. I spoke out on this when it came before the council earlier this year and getting the cannabis tax on the ballot in November. The dispensaries do not bring crime. This is a fact that our own police chief agrees with, and especially the police chief in Pacifica, where they have a dispensary, also agrees with. They do bring revenue. Currently, our residents go to other towns to buy cannabis, and because cannabis is not sold in every jurisdiction, we have people driving right by San Bruno to go to San Francisco or to Pacifica to buy cannabis, and they're leaving their tax dollars there instead of here in San Bruno. I do think this is a missed opportunity. This is an area where, for once, San Bruno can be the leader in the region rather than a follower. because this is something that's going to eventually be in every community. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Linda Mason. There you go.
Thank you. I want to start by saying that I don't think that this is an and or subsidy issue. I think that we need to go after all the revenue that we can, because we balanced our, $8.6 million budget again by not filling a number of positions that we desperately need. So with that said, I have spoken with council members of Redwood City, of San Carlos, of Palm Springs, all which have regulated cannabis in different ways. I think it's something that we need to definitely get serious about looking into. I'm not for a street full of dispensaries, but I think that we do need to consider one or two. We need to heavily look at where that would be. I also think that we need a very public discussion around it. San Carlos, I believe, took 2 years around their discussion of what they're going to have, where they're going to have it. And I think it's something that, like Tom mentioned, it's coming up around us, South City, Pacifica. And let's be honest, we definitely need the money. The chief of police spoke to us at the council meeting, said that he had spoken with the chief of police of Pacifica, and there was no crime associated with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. So I'm pretty moderate on this issue. I'm not a cannabis user, although I see the medical benefits of cannabis for certain people. I also have yet to find any evidence that it would financially benefit the city. I know that Pacifica does well, but South San Francisco has made nothing. So ultimately, because this could be a moral issue to some people, I think it should be left up to the community. And based on what the community thinks we should do, then at that point the city council can act and do the due diligence on how to do it the right way, the process the right way. But for me to say it should be here or not, I don't think it should be my say. I think it should be the community say.
Thank you. And next is Stephen Seymour.
Okay, I look at this as a revenue and an accessibility issue. Prop 215, legalizing medicinal cannabis, passed in 1996, and Prop 64 in 2016. San Bruno passed Prop 64 with 60% approval rating. That was 4 years ago. If passed this November, Measure S will create the tax structure for cannabis businesses. Many cities in San Mateo have already passed cannabis tax measures and are drafting regulations. San Jose expects to bring in $17 million in tax revenue. There's one dispensary at the end of the runway there at the San Jose airport. It's called Airfield Supply Company, and they're going to bring in a third of that because of their how close they are to the airport. The closest dispensaries to us right now are SFO and Pacifica, and I agree that we need public approval. But with public approval, we could see strong tax revenue from cannabis retail in San Bruno. And I agree there probably shouldn't be more than one or two. We don't have a large city, and we would really have to be concerned about where we put them.
Thank you. And finally, Jeremy Sarnecky.
So, legal cannabis for recreational consumption is the law of the land. And I totally think that we should respect the sensibilities of people that would not like to see a cannabis dispensary here. I would also like them to consider the damaging effects of alcohol and tobacco and how that's also sold in San Bruno. Going off of what others have said, I do think it's a tax revenue source, and that we shouldn't be late to this, or else we lose the opportunity to other cities nearby. And I think it does have a synergistic effect with the local businesses in downtown San Bruno.
Thank you. Everybody, okay. We're due to end about 8 o'clock. So to do that, we're going to have a couple more questions. The next to last is titled by the writer, Utilizing Deep Pocket Community Members. And the question is, do you feel we have effectively partnered with deep pocket community members like YouTube, Walmart, Artichoke Joe's, etc.? And if not, how would you change those relationships? Do you feel we have effectively partnered with deep pocket community members like YouTube, Walmart, Artichoke Joe's, etc.? And if not, how would you change those relationships? And first on this is Stephen Seymour.
Okay. I do not believe that we've effectively partnered with these deep pocket community members. The city has had good discussions with YouTube, and we are going to get $35 per square foot on the impact fee on the buildings that they're putting up. But I think we can do a lot more. I've had conversations with some of these deep pocket community members, and they're willing to do more. But what they're looking for is they're looking for off-the-shelf projects that they can be a part of. And they also want them to be very detailed. They're not willing to just dole out a lot of money to large projects, whether it be a library or something like that, without having the details and feeling without having all of the details. I think we can do better, and if elected, I will work with the deep pocket community members. I worked for FedEx for 32 years. I know what it's like to be asked by communities to invest in them, and I think that I can help get that done.
Thank you. And next is Jeremy Sarnecky.
So I definitely think that we could do more in terms of using these large corporate players to both help with a tax deficit, which I just learned is no longer the case. But in terms of developing a public-private partnership that could bring renewable energy to the city of San Bruno, companies such as Google, YouTube already have in their corporate missions to go 100% sustainable. And instead of buying their wind from a Texas wind farm, their energy from a Texas wind farm, I think that we would do much better to our citizens if we could have an energy sharing program where these corporate complexes could develop wind energy off the coast, and we could have that energy, us being the community members, during the night when they're not using it.
Thank you. And next is Linda Mason.
Yes, so I think where we are with YouTube right now is a start. I believe that a number of the companies that we have here in San Bruno are willing to help. As Mr. Seymour stated, I've been told the same thing, that they need shovel-ready projects. They need an actual plan in place, and they'd be more than willing to help. I think we need to look at some of our companies and see if they'd be willing to chip in for a shuttle. I talked about the downtown lunch. We should be talking to our corporations to see if they're using, if their guests are using our local hotels. Are they shopping in our restaurants? Are they going to, have a drink at Nueva Bar in Bay Hill? Very practical questions, but they make a big difference to those business owners who need the money. We also should be working with our schools to see what the needs of our schools are and see if we can all partner together to see what the benefit would be to the majority really of our populations. And I would also like to look at Adopt a Project. We've got over 100 strategic initiatives. Is there an initiative that you want to adopt as a business here in San Bruno? Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Rico Medina.
So what I think is important is the community benefits, but that's a one-time infusion of money. And so what we should have is ongoing communication. But what's key, what's important, is not 5 elected persons going off individually asking for things. It needs to be brought together as a council as a whole, have the initiatives, have the goals, have the agenda of what we want to do, and have staff move it forward, or have a subcommittee or an ad hoc committee move it forward. Everybody has ideas, but we need to go in unified, show that we have a plan, and show that their dollars that they're going to invest in this community will represent them well and will be good. They are business partners. And so therefore, we need to sit at the table and we need to communicate with them effectively and show them how they can even be better partners.
Thank you. And next is Michael Salazar.
I think the key here is really forming partnerships, and we do have very good partnerships. I know our staff and our electeds are in constant contact with YouTube and with Artichoke Joe's. Artichoke Joe's was mentioned. They've been here forever, and they've been a great community partner in supporting a lot of different programs. And I think it's important also that we not overextend our businesses or even bombard them from different compartments. The school was mentioned, and they also have needs. And I know that YouTube is partnering with our schools. They're partnering with the city. They're partnering with our community foundation. It's important that we all stay on the same page and that we understand what the priorities are so that when we do ask, we ask for something that is of the most benefit to the entire city, and that we not overextend our welcome with these corporate neighbors.
Thank you. And next is Tom Hamilton.
I would agree with almost everything that's been said on this topic up till now. I would take Artichoke Joe's out of that grouping. They've been notoriously generous to San Bruno as a longtime business owner here in San Bruno, and in fact, as the remodeling plan that Dennis Samlet put together before he passed. Was specifically done in order to make the north entrance to our downtown look better, because he wanted to contribute to our downtown remodeling. So I would take AJ's out of that one, but we do need to do more. We do need to have shovel-ready plans that we can bring to our deep-pocketed neighbors to have them, see if they would like to help us with those. I do like the idea of partnering with one of these corporations to put a shuttle into San Bruno, especially for first mile commuting and to bring people to our downtown.
Thank you. And finally, Stephen Marshall.
Thank you. So I think my first piece of advice would be not to refer to them as deep pocket community members, and maybe refer to them as successful business people, because we can't just keep asking for money every time we need it. We need to create these relationships. How about getting these incredible business people to join our boards and our commissions, and getting back to what I said about hiring a business developer who strictly does that and puts together a key team of these successful business people, get them involved in the community, and then that's when things happen. Again, I've said this before, we don't have to recreate the wheel here. The city just to the north of us has done an incredible job. When Genentech came to town, they embraced them. They created relationships. They created a program where all of the employees were given vouchers to eat and shop downtown. We can do that here in San Bruno, but it means creating relationships, not just asking for a check.
Great, thank you. And this will be our last question. We'll probably run just a little bit past 8, but Kathy and I both like to ask this question at the end of the forum. What unique talents or qualifications do you have for the office? What unique talents or qualifications would you bring to this office? Or in other words, what is your superpower? And first on this is Linda Mason. What is your superpower?
It's kind of a tough question. I would say that my superpower, good or bad, like it or not, is that I am very direct. I ask questions. I think it's really important that when we look at our fiscal solvency and our fiscal accountability and our sustainability, we have to ask questions. Mr. Marshall refers to himself as a fiscal hawk. I love that. I actually love that expression. I'm the council member that asked when our city manager wanted $3 million. I said maybe we should go for 1 and then have him come back to ask questions. I was not supported in that vote to move forward. I was one of the council members who read the entire ecology contract, found out that it had not been out for competition for 24 years, 10 years past the longest other ecology contract in San Mateo County, which is San Mateo. I read the contract and read all of the clauses and the community benefits to ensure that we were receiving them, some of which were not, and I'm waiting to hear back on that. I also asked when Measure G came to us, at the final budget vote, we were going to be asked to approve it with not 1 cent going to street repair. Street repair was the #1 publicized use of Measure G funds. To be fair, COVID came, nobody anticipated COVID, but I did ensure that $170,000 was put towards our street paving. So with all that said, I'm direct, I ask a lot of questions, and like it or not, I think that's one of my superpowers. Thank you.
Thank you. And next is Michael Salazar. What is your superpower?
Well, I wouldn't say that I have any superpowers, but what I do bring to this office is the ability to listen to the residents, to the staff. I do my homework. I come prepared, and I always give every decision an impartial, very practical. I give everything its due, and whenever I make a decision, it's really based on facts, and it's always balanced based on all of the information that I can gather. So that's what I think I really bring to this office.
Thank you. And Stephen Marshall, what are your unique qualifications or your superpower?
Thank you. So I failed a lot in life. I failed personally, I failed professionally. And what's unique about me is I've always come back stronger after those failures. And I think my comebacks have always come from listening to people who are smarter than me, who are different than me. And where we're at right now with our city and with this council is it's time for us to listen to each other. I look forward to working with Linda and with Michael and Rico and Margie, because we're all so different and we're all going to bring such unique ideas. But if we listen to each other respectfully, that's how incredible things happen. I'm also incredible at taking two people who don't agree and putting things together. That's what I do for a living, and that's what I can do on the city council. So I'm really looking forward, actually, to the diversity of the council and to bringing different ideas together.
Thank you. And next is Jeremy. Jeremy Sarnecky, what is your superpower?
So I don't want to seem like I'm shy and I'm hiding any superpower, but I really don't think I bring anything else than just being a team player, but also someone that is a scientist and can, take in the information that's provided to us by the CDC, by the public health offices in San Mateo, and that we can develop public health practices that protect our community members and maybe even, ease up the restrictions if we do it in a sensible and smart way.
Thank you. And Tom Hamilton, what are your special unique qualifications for this office?
I'm uniquely qualified in that I work very well in bringing people together to achieve consensus. It's part of my professional job. My professional job also involves designing processes and identifying choke points and identifying waste, which is something we can definitely use in government. But I think my biggest superpower is knowing that this job is not about me. This job is about doing the best for the city of San Bruno. I would have to check my ego at the door and know that I will not always have the right answer. That this job is about working with council colleagues and working with staff to achieve consensus and getting to that right answer and moving forward with it as a unified team. Thank you.
Thank you. And Rico Medina, what is your superpower?
I'll go with experience, but not as a superpower, but it is experience. It is having and building the relationships with our employees. I'm one person that the city manager will joke or, I'm a trust but verify. So I can be told something, I can be told how it is in the field, but I want to be in the field. I want to hear from the employees themselves directly. As a former city employee, a former shop steward, former committee, commission, and board members throughout from Cappuccino High to today, you learn and you understand about building relationships and being able to keep that communication open. And at our last council meeting, it was trying to bring everybody together to compromise after an hour of dialogue. And so really, I think what I do is I bring to the table that I listen, that I'm passionate, but I'm also compassionate. And I think that that's an important factor for a mayor to be, that is there when is needed, has the experience to get us through, whether it's the economic challenges, the COVID-19 post, for all the groups and bodies that I serve on and the activities that I've held.
Thank you. And finally, Stephen Seymour, what is your superpower?
I think I'll chime in there too, saying that I don't, it's really about the powers of others. I work well with others. I balance the budget while at FedEx 18 years in a row. I operate from inspect what you expect position. I have a lot of energy, and I'm really excited about community input. I'm excited about listening to the community. I have an art background. I went to the New School for Social Research in New York, Parsons School of Design. So I have a creative approach to challenges. I love collaboration and consensus.
Thank you. I wish I could ask more questions because I had lots of great questions, but we are out of time basically. So we're going to move to the closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement, and we reverse the order from the opening statements. So first is Linda Mason. There you go.
Thank you. I just want to thank everybody again. I'm going to switch up my closing actually, just because not one question addressed the difference between the mayoral candidates and the city council candidates. It's important for everybody to note that the mayor really has 2 additional responsibilities than everyone else. One is that they preside over the meeting. I highly, highly recommend that if there's any question about my ability to preside over the meeting, that you watch the Mills Park vote when I was the chair of the Planning Commission, because I did preside over every meeting that year. That Mills Park meeting was probably the largest meeting that we've had, and it was very smoothly run with a significant amount of differing opinions. It did not end at 2:30 in the morning with no continuations and a project left up in the air with everybody trying to figure out what just happened. I think it's really important that when we talk about experience, that we also talk about my background. I've been an ombudsman. I have brought parties together that you would never think would come together. I've been a director of policy. One of the first things that I did was ask our city manager what the process was for the city council, a policy-making board, to bring a policy. It did not exist. The process to bring an initiative from the city council did not exist. It was put together, it was sent to the city council, and as you can see from our meetings, you'll start seeing under commission comments a number of initiatives that started being brought forth from the city council. The other area are commissions, committees, boards. The mayor appoints them only with the approval of council. I think we need to look at all of our committees and commissions and boards. We have a lot of smart people on there. What's happening on there? We have speed bumps that are going to our traffic and safety committee, and you hear nothing back after you show up for public comment and make that request. What are we doing with our volunteers' time? What are we doing with our public's time? Let's create processes that work, committees that function, and let's make sure that we're all creating something that has a process that actually has results. Thank you so much. I humbly request your vote. Bye.
Thank you. And I did intend to note the race and the term for everybody with the closing statement. So that was Linda Mason, who is a candidate for mayor, which is a 2-year term. Next for closing statement is Jeremy Sarnecky, who is running for one of the 2 city council seats, which is a 4-year term.
Thank you. I am running with a completely different directive and vision for the city of San Bruno and that of city government in general. I am the candidate for those who want to ask more of their elected leaders, that they should not only be cognizant of the larger issues facing our nation, but should be actively involved in ways to address them. I am the candidate for anyone who believes that a concrete framework for transitioning to 100% renewable energy must be outlined in the next general plan. I am the candidate who will ask how surplus school properties are sold to other schools that are private. And I am the candidate who will make it my mission to bring as many young people into the political process as possible. And I would be honored to have your vote this November 3rd.
Thank you. And the next closing statement is Tom Hamilton, who is running for one of the 2 city council seats, a 4-year term.
It's time for San Bruno to chart a new path with new leadership. I have ample experience on our commissions and committees and in my professional life in both bringing people together to solve problems, as well as in seeing where our city processes need to be improved. If I am fortunate enough to be elected as council member, I will work to approve respectful development that adds desperately needed housing while mitigating the impact on our existing neighborhoods. I will work to enact my simple and detailed plan to immediately begin revitalizing our downtown. I will work to expand our city's communication efforts by expanding the noticing area for projects and allowing citizens from anywhere in San Bruno to subscribe online and receive email updates about the projects that interest them. And when a resident contacts the city, it must be a high priority for every department across the board to respond to that request, because everyone deserves an answer. Again, I am the only candidate who posted all of my positions on all of these big issues in detail right at the beginning of my campaign. I'm bringing specific, practical ideas instead of rhetoric, and I will always be available to listen to your concerns and be your voice on the council. There are 2 open seats on the city council, and I hope that my track record of service to our community and the skills and ideas that I'm bringing with me to the table will earn me San Bruno's vote for one of them. I continue to serve because I believe in San Bruno, and I hope that you do too. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next closing statement is Michael Salazar, who is running for one of the 2 city council seats, a 4-year term.
As I mentioned in my opening, this forum should be a starting point for deeper conversations about the ideas and the facts behind the issues discussed here today. If you have questions that weren't answered, please reach out so we can continue the conversation. You can find my information on my webpage, salazarforcouncil.com. My wife and I chose San Bruno nearly 2 decades ago as the place we would call home and where we would raise our children. My boys are grown men now, and both Sandra and I continue to serve wherever we are needed. Church, school, community, neighbor, whatever the call, we have helped where we can. And we do this because we have a deep affection for this community. I have served the people of San Bruno faithfully for many years and in many roles. In that time, I have always conducted myself with the deepest respect for every office I hold. I have treated every resident with dignity and respect, even when it wasn't reciprocated. I have also treated our staff with respect and appreciation for the hard work they do for all of us. I believe that our city needs leaders that bring us together, not tear us apart. I have seen this community come together over many issues over the years, and on this 10th anniversary of the most devastating tragedy we have ever had, we've been forced to reinvent our lives due to this pandemic. Yet, we continue to come together. I'm proud to be part of this community. San Bruno is a very special place, and we have to make sure it stays that way. What I offer you today is my professional experience as an engineer, a manager of business and technology, along with my experience as a council member, and most importantly, as someone who has proven he is willing to listen to you. I have been here during hard times and the good times, and with your support, I will continue to be here for you. I respectfully ask for your support and your vote for the City Council. Thank you for your time, and good night.
Thank you. And the next closing statement is Rico Medina, who is running for the mayor spot, which is a 2-year term.
Thank you. Yes, I am running for a second term as the city's mayor, and I want to thank every candidate that is running this time. It is not easy. Put yourself out there and your families and a lot of time and effort, but thank you for the community. What I think is important is about a mayor that brings people together, builds consensus. The mayor is more ceremonial, but when things go wrong or an issue arises or devastation occurs, the mayor steps forward, is the voice, is the image to hold this community together and to move us forward. And I have done that, and I have the experience, and I have dealt with unfortunate times and some sad times and some good times. And I want to continue on that path. Throughout my life, I've had so many people who have helped me along the way. They have made me a stronger man and a better person that has allowed me to serve on the city council and now as your mayor. It is important to know that it is not I who appoints people to committee, commissions, and board. It's the council that does it. It's not I who puts forward a strategic initiative or adds it to the agenda. It is the council that collectively decides these things. And the mayor is there to try to build and bring and ensure that we have civility and unity. And at times, I think that our community looks to other things than what we should do and focus on how we help each other, how we move together as one, and how we recall all the times whenever we're challenged in this community, we rise, we stand, and we move on. With the resilience and the courage of this community has made me extremely proud to call it home my entire life. I would be extremely honored, privileged, and blessed to have another term as your mayor of the city with the heart. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Thank you. And our next closing statement is Stephan Marshall, who is running for one of the 2 city council seats, a 4-year term.
First of all, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for creating such a wonderful forum, an opportunity for us to talk to our voters. As I've mentioned, my passion for the city of San Bruno comes from a deep respect I have of public service, which is instilled in me at an early age. I served several years on the Park and Rec Commission, am current president-elect of San Bruno Rotary Club. I'm currently on the board of directors of Star Vista, one of our county's largest nonprofits, and I'm a successful small business owner here locally. In light of the pandemic that we have experienced over the last 7 months, it is more essential than ever that our city government is accountable to its residents. Accountability is how I live my life every day. Our city must play an important role in helping our small businesses thrive, once again, in creating an environment where new and exciting businesses choose to locate here. Our city must play an important role in helping us grow both physically and emotionally by enhancing our neighborhoods and providing affordable housing for all of us. We must capitalize on every opportunity to make our city stronger, safer, cleaner, and a more vibrant place for businesses to locate and our residents to live. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and I would be honored to have your vote.
Thank you. And our final closing statement is Stephan Seymour, who's running for one of the city council seats, a 4-year term.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to us tonight. It's very important to make an educated decision when casting your vote. I have had a successful career. I could have worked many more years, but I knew it was time to hand over the reins so that my employees had advancement opportunities. During my tenure at FedEx, I was exceptionally proud of the training and promotional opportunities I helped to create for others. While my greatest accomplishment may have been my ability to manage a large organization while meeting our budget, I took the greatest pride in mentoring opportunities and getting FedEx involved in the communities where we work. Strong governance and leadership should provide opportunities for others. We are a city made up of many cultures, ethnicities, and strengths. I believe city government is responsible for adopting ordinances, resolutions, policies, and regulations that improve the health, safety, and welfare of our residents. Today, I look around and I question how well San Bruno is doing. We have streets in disrepair. We have garbage on our medians and on land that is adjacent to San Bruno. My life experiences have given me the insight to work with others to find solutions that work for us all. Today we struggle with revenue problems. But if all works as planned, soon we will see revenue improvements associated with the new development. I have experience sourcing and developing land for FedEx. There are 2 locations I help to manage projects on. One is located under 280 in San Francisco and the other on Datto Street in Milpitas. I know how developers think. I have been working to make San Bruno better for years, focusing on parking, downtown, our green spaces, and on better governance. I did not want to wait to get involved until I started running for office. I have created relationships with the public, the city, the county, and others that will benefit our city. I humbly ask for one of your 2 votes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And while Kathy shares a few slides that we have on voting, I'm going to also tell you that you can find additional information about the candidates on the League's Smart Voter website, votersedge.org. All the candidates have been invited to enter their information and link to their own websites. Remember to vote on November 3rd, Tuesday, November 3rd, and encourage others to vote as well. You can go into a full screen mode, Kathy, if possible. There are 3 ways to return your ballot. You can mail it in the envelope that comes with it. You can use a county drop box, or you can visit a vote center, and you can find these locations at smcacre.org/elections. The next slide, please. The voting centers are open from Halloween through Election Day. The 3 that are in San Bruno are Halloween through Election Day. There's also one opening today at the county offices in Redwood City and the election offices at Tower Road. And there's one more, I think it's in South City. Go check out the website, find it. But from Halloween to Election Day, there will be 3 in San Bruno, at the Courtyard by Marriott at SFO Airport, at Skyline College, at Veterans Memorial Rec Center. And at those, if you make a mistake on your postage ballot, you can take it to a vote center, exchange it, you can vote in person, anything you need to do, you can do at a vote center. You just get your ballot, you fill it out, you can take it to a secure Dropbox location. There'll be 2 of those in San Bruno, at the Senior Center and at City Hall. If you haven't registered to vote, make sure you do so by October 19th. You can also sign up to track your ballot. If you did that, you can look now and see that it's happily on its way to you, hopefully by now, because they should be in the mail no later than today. So again, mail it, Dropbox, vote in person at a vote center. Any other information? There's lots of websites, but the San Mateo County Assessor's ACRE is the best place to go. There's more information in your sample ballot. You'll get a registered voters will also get an official voter information guide. There's the Easy Voter Guide at easyvoter.org. And again, there's Voters Edge, the League site. And finally, if you enjoy forums like these or other activities that encourage our citizenry to be engaged and involved in this process we call democracy, think about joining the League of Women Voters. Our local chapter is the League of North and Central San Mateo County, lwvncsmc.org. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization, and membership is open to both men and women of voting age. So join us if you enjoyed this. And in conclusion, let's thank the candidates for running. It's a hard job. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of time from their families and their jobs, and we really appreciate their service to their community. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Melissa and the City of San Bruno for hosting us tonight.